I've got some questions just here for a moment, Gary, that I just want to run past and let everybody know about the relationship that Gary had with Mark Douglas, and to try and put a little bit of context around that and why it's so important and why Gary himself has been able to become such a consistent, peaceful investor, and why it's so important that we enable you to develop the same skills. So a couple of questions. Trading in the Zone, that's a book on the back here, was published first back in about 2000, and it's been reprinted over a dozen times. So that was the last time I checked. So probably even more now. So when did you first become aware of the book?
I first became aware of the book in 2002.
Okay. Yep. And at that time, were you trading mechanically or were you subjective?
No, I was mechanical at that stage. Spent the first 5 years of my trading career from 1990 to 1995 being subjective. I didn't see it in that terminology. But yeah, I was a fundamental analyst to start, and then through reading and not being able to solve this problem through there's a massive time-consuming and massive data requirement. I've went to price action, to technical analysis, and found that through reading and bumping into people. The Australian Technical Analysts Association played a huge role in that as well. And then I came through reading books. Perry Kaufman was the initial one, and Joe Kritzinger, another one, and even Larry Williams, and then reading Market Wizards later down the track confirmed that mechanical was the way to go. And I started developing a mechanical system based on price action. So I went down this path of developing, and I'm absolutely convinced that most of the mindset I attained didn't actually come from executing mechanically. It came from developing a mechanical system. And it was when I started reading, the first time I read Trading in the Zone, 2002, I thought it was a load of hogwash. Not hogwash, probably a bit strong word, but it didn't resonate with me. And it was only until I met Mark Douglas in 2004. I read it a second time. In fact, I read it the first time, and one of our customers said, this is a great book. And I thought, well, I had a lot of respect for this person, and so I thought I'd give it another go. And I'm convinced to this day that the reason that I discounted the book the first time is that it clashed with some of the mindset, dysfunctional beliefs I had that I hadn't resolved at that stage. I had resolved a whole bunch without knowing it, because I was researching and then trading a mechanical system. I'd been trading a mechanical system at that stage for 4.5 years, nearly 5 years, 1997 through to 2002. But I only put all this into context later. It took me probably a few years to put that into context.
Yeah. So we just talked about the ladder, etc. At that point in time, where do you think you were on the ladder with respect to the importance of mindset?
Yeah. So I think the first 5 years, 6 years, I didn't start becoming a bit more consistently profitable until 1997, when I'd been trying this for 7 years. And I started using the mechanical system in a live environment. I was definitely, I was level 1 for probably 4 or 5 years. And then I became aware probably when I really started researching mechanical systems. So I was probably at level 2 then, but still making all the mistakes, and probably started crossing over from level 2 to level 3 in the 97, 98 timeframe.
Yeah. And so you read the book and it didn't do too much for you. What convinced you to go back and read it?
Well, I got there were a couple of customers who I had discussions with on the phone. We had a debate, I guess is probably the best. There was no heat or emotion about the merits of the book. So I went back and read it, and I read it again. And then it started really assimilating with what this was. And even the reading of the book then started helping me identify dysfunctional beliefs that I hadn't resolved yet. And that started, started resolving those as well. And then one of the customers, John, and if he's listening to this, you know who he is, suggested, we had customer retreats in those days. We'd had a couple already in 2000 and 2002. The next one was set for 2004 in Hamilton, Ireland. And John suggested to me that I invite Mark Douglas. He's not going to shoot me in the kneecaps for asking. So, and no, it's easy. I'd taken lots of rejection in my life, having had lots of lost trades. So I contacted him, and he said, let me have a think about it. And in his way that I came to know, is he went to the universe and basically asked the question as part of the creative process. And he wrote it down on a piece of paper. Should I go to Hamilton, Ireland to do this? He got a solution that came to him from basically asking that question. And he came back about 3 or 4 weeks later, and he said, yes, I'll come. And that's what started the whole friendship and relationship.
Yeah. So he came along to the conference, the retreat there. You established a friendship. Tell us a bit about the friendship. I mean, was it just purely like a business sort of arrangement or whatever, where he came in and as a guest speaker, or did you actually become really personable and a close confidant and as a human, one-to-one?
I think initially it was definitely we had a common thing, right? And he had come at it from the psychology perspective and never developed a mechanical system. He had gone through the wilderness years. His story is public. You can find out about it. And he had failed as a trader and then decided, how am I going to resolve this? He resolved it by going to the mind. I resolved it by going to the mechanical system. And we kind of met from different angles. And obviously that resonated. We were on the same page, but it became more than that after, because we used to have long discussions about my golf and his ice hockey. He was playing ice hockey into his early 60s. So we used to talk about that on the phone over long. We used to have hour and a half, 2 hour telephone discussions and relating those aspects and relationship aspects to trading and where trading and fitted into to that whole realm of doing life, basically. And he came out to Australia again, and we hosted him at Hamilton Island for a week, got to know him well there. And then he came out, then we did a Path to Consistency workshop. We're about 16 of us, because he kept the numbers pretty small, attended that here in Melbourne for a whole weekend. It was about 22, 23 hours of intensive training. A lot of that will come out in the session. And then he came over to Perth in 2005. I flew over to meet him there. And then telephone discussions carried on for another 5 years before I went over to the United States and spent some time with him there. And I remember him, a colleague of mine, and we went and had a meal, and I'm working on this new book. And so he said, come, I want to read it to you. We went and sat in his hotel room after having had a meal and a couple of glasses of wine. And he said, I just want to read these 2 paragraphs to you. So he sat down and he read, which ended up being more than 2 paragraphs, but he went to the one paragraph and he said, it took me 6 weeks to write that paragraph.
Wow.
Because every single word had to be intentional and be meaningful. And I thought, wow, this guy's on a different planet. And this is where he spoke about the creative process and how you can get solutions. And we'll talk quite a bit about that in sessions to come, how you get solutions by having a blank piece of paper, writing a question on the top of the page. And I used this through his mentorship and writing parts of my book, Blueprint to Wealth. And even solving problems for mechanical systems and that, and it's something that stayed with me. So that's the creative process, not just mentoring and trading. And then we had him in Hawaii in 2011. He came over for a week and joined our retreat there as well. And then I met with him at his home in Phoenix, and we had these walks, 3 walks in the week that I was there, walking around the hills of Phoenix, and talking about everything to do with trading, life, everything, the whole toot.
Yeah. So it's really become very much, in the sense, a very positive influence on your investing, but also just mindset, which you've been able to carry across to other areas of your life as well.
Well, I did to golf. The whole thing about golf and the whole expectations, the risks, water on the left, out of bounds on the right, all of that sort of thing. It all applied to golf. And I stopped playing golf as a junior as a 6 handicap. And typically people, you take up golf again later in life, really struggle with getting to a lower riding a bike, to a lower handicap than what you attained when you were a kid. And I came back to it in my 40s after finishing my cricket career and started playing golf seriously again for the first time since I was 16. And I got down to a 1.6 handicap by applying. And there's still a ceiling there that I've got to get through. But I attribute the mental side of golf, the psychology of golf, to what I got out of trading in the zone.
Yeah, and I think that's just the purpose of just discussing is just so you get the realization of how close Gary was to Mark and the importance and the influence that he's had on Gary and the value that brings to us as individuals and also members of this great community.
Bit of a sojourn. Didn't think we were going to go into that much detail,
but it's good for context. Yeah.
Good.